Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at noon starts now.
After a cold start, we are expecting mild temperatures across Metro Detroit this afternoon. Meteorologist Andrew Humphrey is in with your complete Thursday forecast. And President Biden set to address the nation today with a new plan to get the pandemic under control and boost vaccinations. But first, the acting director of the state's unemployment insurance agency appears before the House Oversight Committee. Thank you for joining us for Local 4 News at noon. And that does top our news this noon. Today's hearing focused on a number of issues related to the state's unemployment system over the past 18 months. Let's get to Local 4's Rob Maloney, who's been listening in. What are you learning?
Well, we're learning that there is a lot of anger, a lot of frustration with the department, with the UIA, and there's also a lot of defensive posture on the UIA's part. Susan Olson, who was the acting director, took over last fall after a disastrous problem that the unemployment agency had throughout the beginning of the pandemic. It forced the leader to resign, and now there are calls for Susan Olson to resign, and that did come up in today's hearing. Now, there is no doubt, and there can be no debate about the fact that the unemployment system in the state of Michigan failed under the weight of massive amounts of claims. There were 5.3 million claims. That's staggering when you consider we have about 10 million people in the state. 2.4 million of those claims were paid. Some of that information came out, but there was a federal audit done on Michigan's system, and the federal audit came out and said that the state of Michigan, when it was putting things on its website to have people qualify for unemployment, were just flat out wrong from the jump. And so there's a lot of anger, a lot of frustration in Lansing with how this has gone. There's frustration all across the state about the way this has gone. And so Steve Johnson, who's the Oversight Committee chair, started talking to Susan Olson about this, and it got a little bit heated here. Let's take a listen in.
We have had 3 new programs in the last 18 months, that 3 acts of Congress that we have been provided guidance on to implement to help people through this pandemic.
I'm not asking for excuses. I'm asking for what you believe you've done wrong and ways to fix them. I think that's what is problematic here, is when I look for a leader, the leader takes responsibility. They don't just blame other people. And that's what I keep hearing, is just blaming other people.
I'm sorry, who am I blaming?
You're blaming Congress. You're blaming the previous administration. You're blaming lack of funding. You're blaming all kinds of things. What you're not doing is you're not taking responsibility.
Now, Olson did say that for all of those people who want her out of that job, essentially calling for her professional head, she said this is a very difficult job, very tough job in unprecedented times, and she defends the work that her organization has done. She's also talking about the fact that they have, they're looking to get a new computer system in Lansing. They were going to do it before the pandemic. They weren't going to change it out in the middle of a pandemic, but they say they need to get a more updated system, and she's looking for funding for that. And there was still a lot of discussion around all of those kinds of issues in the hearing today. But we're certainly going to flesh this out more clearly coming up on Local 4 News at 5. Reporting live, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
All right, sounds good. We look forward to your report later today, Rod. Thank you. Meanwhile, residents in Flat Rock are demanding more answers about that gas leak after Ford and other officials addressed concerns during a virtual town hall meeting yesterday. Ford Motor Company says that the gas leak was larger than what they originally thought. Officials also said that they're only recommending evacuations in Zone 1. Previously, it was said that Zones 1 and 2 were affected. Ford is still working to accommodate those affected by the evacuations with hotel vouchers and also gift cards. Turning our attention now to a look at the weather, and after a cooler start in the 50s, Andrew, it looks like it's going to be a nice day.
That's right. We have some sunshine out there. Temperatures are steadily climbing. Now, it will be cooler than average. The average high this time of year is 77. We'll see low 70s this afternoon. And showing up here on Storm Tracker 4, we talked about it this morning, some of those isolated showers that I've been showing you in the past couple of hours. Some of those showers are a little bit more widespread across southern Lake Huron, but they are moving into portions of eastern Sanilac County, also in St. Clair County. Don't be surprised by a few raindrops be persistent in those areas. And even a couple of raindrops that are more widely scattered about. And really, you can almost count them on one hand around Oxford and right here in northern and central Macomb counties. But that's it right now. We're seeing a healthier amount of clouds overhead, partly to mostly cloudy skies, but 67 degrees, a far cry from the 50s we saw earlier. But 61 where it's cloudier for our friends in Pontiac. With clouds holding tight, temperatures barely make it to 70 degrees or just a bit more in some areas, and we'll still see some persistent isolated showers in spots. Not all over the place, and many areas may remain dry. But guess what? I've got higher temperatures on the way as early as tomorrow. We'll talk about that and your 7-day forecast coming up.
All right, sounds good, Andrew. Thank you. President Biden is announcing this afternoon his plan to tackle the spread of COVID-19 and boost vaccinations across the country. An administration official confirmed to NBC News that the president will call on all schools to set up regular testing. He also is expected to announce a new vaccine requirement for all federal workers and millions of contractors who work with the U.S. government, according to a source familiar with the plans that will be announced later today. This all will come in the form of an executive order and will build on what the president already asked of federal workers back in July. The president is expected to speak about 5 o'clock this afternoon, and we will bring it to you live right here on Local 4 and clickondetroit.com. Now to researchers at Beaumont Health. They believe a new study proves that COVID-19 vaccines prevent hospitalization and death. The large-scale study followed more than 11,000 COVID-19 patients across Southeast Michigan treated at Beaumont centers, and they found the hospitalization rate was 96% lower in vaccinated patients than those who were not vaccinated. For those who needed intensive care, only 8 people over the age of 65 died in the fully vaccinated group, while 384 unvaccinated patients died, some as young as 21. The study comes as hospitals and business leaders are urging the people of Michigan to get vaccinated as the COVID cases are rising and hospitalizations are rising among the unvaccinated. During a virtual briefing this morning, hospital leaders shared their concerns as hospitals in Michigan are once again nearing capacity with COVID patients.
Heartbroken and discouraged by patients who continue to remain unvaccinated because they thought they could outrun the disease.
We have posted the entire live stream if you'd like to listen in or share it with those folks that you're still trying to educate on getting vaccinated at clickondetroit.com. The first commercial flight out of Afghanistan since the Taliban seized control has taken off. The Qatar Airways Boeing 777 left Kabul today, headed for Doha. About 200 passengers, including U.S. citizens, were all on board. Other international flights are expected in the coming days. The U.S. has been trying to get its citizens and allies out of Afghanistan. More evidence that it is getting even harder for businesses to find workers. New at noon, what the latest report on job openings is telling us. But first, more rain is soaking parts of the flood-ravaged Northeast. A look at how communities are preparing.